We start with the string instruments, the varied categories of string instruments.
Hi everyone, I am V. Vijayalakshmi. String instruments. String instruments are nothing but the instruments which produce sounds from vibrating the strings. So here we are going to see about some string instruments. The first one is sitar. We all have known that it is the most popular Indian string instrument. It has been used in India for about 700 years. It has 6 or 7 main playing strings and 19 sympathetic strings. The great artist Pandit Ravi Shankar sir gave a new perception to the strings, sitar. Next one is Saraswati Veena. We have seen most of us in the hands of the goddess Saraswati. It is the most ancient South Indian music instrument. It has 4 main playing instruments and 3 drawn strings, which is nothing but talam. It has no sympathetic strings. The next is Rudra Veena. It is also called as Been. It is associated with Drupad. Drupad is nothing but the oldest Indian music. The notes duration is incredibly very high. Sarod. Sarod is which speaks close relationship between India, Afghanistan and Persia. When compared to sitar, it is most smallest and it's comfortable for the players to play because it sits on the player's lap comfortably. Tanpura. Tanpura is the instruments used both by the vocalist and an instrumentalist. It has very rich sounds. Santur. It is most popular in Kashmir. It mostly played with all Indian ragas and in Indian film music also it has been used. The next one is Gopikand. It is in Bengal. This instrument is used as a folk instrument. It has 2 legs which is made up of bamboo. By the left hand they are squeezed together and while the right hand plug the strings. While at last the violin. We all have known this easily. Can identify this. Violin is the Western instrument used in the Indian music. About 300 years ago in India it was introduced. It is played by sitting position and held between the right foot and the left shoulder. Thank you.
Sitar. The sitar is an extremely popular Indian string instrument used for more than 700 years. It has 6 to 7 main playing strings and 19 sympathetic strings. Pandit Ravi Shankar is a great artist who plays sitar. Gopi Chand. Gopi Chand is a popular folk instrument of Bengal. It is made of bamboo and contains strings. It is a rhythmic instrument. Violin. The violin is the only Western instrument used in Indian music. Introduced to India 300 years ago. The violin is played in a sitting position with a bow.
Hi, I am Vidyashree. I am going to talk about the violin family. The violin family of musical instruments came into Italy in 16th century. At that time, the violin family name was called as Violino Braccio. The standard violin family are violin, viola, cello, and double bass. The violin family. String instruments are musical instruments that produce sound while the player plays in a string in some manner. Violin, viola, cello, double bass. Violin types. It is most common that the violin have some significant effect to quality of the violin. Violin in maker, country of origin, wood type will give the good effect quality on the violin. Violin have many types. Violin vary in size. Mainly, the children can easily learn the violin. Types of violin by period. Time. Pre-backward string instrument, brachio violin, classical violin, violinophone, electric violin, semi-electric.
Good evening, everyone. I am Nitin from Violin team. I thank TVG IMA for giving me this opportunity. I am here to present you the various parts in Violin family. Let's see the basic parts of the violin. The top of the violin we have a scroll. Beside that we have a peg box. Some violin have 4 pegs because they have 4 strings, and some violin have 6 pegs because they have 6 strings. Next we have the neck, and we have the fingerboard which is glued to the neck. Then we have the strings. Some violin have 6 strings and some violin have 4 strings. Next we have the bridge, fine tuners, the tailpiece, and a button which holds the tailpiece. The tuning pegs. The tuning pegs and peg box are located at the top of the instrument by the scroll. The tension of the string is controlled by turning the peg, and the peg is held in place by friction in its hole. Strings. There are 4 strings in violin. Some violin has 6 strings. Strings are made of metals. The quality of string is very important for better quality. Fingerboard. The fingerboard is part of the neck where player places his finger to fiddle the violin. Bridge. A bridge is a device that supports the strings on a string musical instrument and transmits the vibration. The chinrest. The chinrest is an additional invention that supports the player's chin. Neck. The neck of the instrument is the part of the violin that carries most of the stress of the strings. It is the long wooden piece behind the fingerboard which the fingerboard is glued to.
With some of the repeats that are happening between the 2 batches, we'll probably skip a little bit of this. In terms of the tuning, what's not covered so far is the style between the classical and the Western. The classical is typically tuned to only one note, while the Western can be done to multiple notes. And typically from a frequency standpoint, the base standard that goes with this is about 440 hertz. That is what's played on the standard part of the violin. We'll move on to the next.
I'm going to talk about the Barneys in playing violin techniques. Okay, Barney is special to South India, wherein a Barney is a particular technique which a player or a musician follows. You can compare this to the gharanas of the north. Gharanas are typically belong to a musical style followed by a particular region in North India. In South India, there is a distinction because the Barney is very, very individualistic and is very unique to that particular musician. We can identify the Barneys by 3 ways. One is the performing style or the playing technique which the musician uses. Other is the musical quality which the musician plays, musical style that is. And the other is the creativity or the penchant of the musician himself. Usually, a musician will specialize in a particular style of music, like a javali or ragam, tanam, pallavi, or a padam, and he will play that to his utmost creativity. So that will decide the Barney of that particular musician. Earliest Barneys, violin was introduced by Balaswami Dikshitar to India. Though he didn't play it himself, Tanjavur Vadivelu and Malakota Govindaswamy, they were the first people to perform violin on a concert and solo performance levels. So the earliest Barney can be attributed to them. Earliest Barney of violin playing technique in South India can be attributed to these people. The next is Mysore Chaudaya. He was a very unique musician in that he introduced the 7-stringed violin. He mainly introduced the 7-string violin so that in the olden days when there were no mics or amplifiers, people in the far end of the hall could also hear the sound of the violin. And his playing technique is very unique, and it forms the Chaudaya Bani. The next is Dwaram Venkataswamy Naidu. He is from Andhra Pradesh and he is the Asthana Vidwan of Vijayanagara. His Bani was his speciality was the perfection in which he played the instrument itself. He brought out the pure tone of the violin and the diction of the violin to match the vocalists. We can say this with authority because our Guruji is one of his most beloved accompanists. The next is T.N. Krishnan. His style of music was such a way that it was more close to the vocal style of playing. In that, very peculiar to South Indian music, the gamakas and the musical mannerisms were very pronounced in his style. So it formed the T.N. Krishna's Bani. The next was Lalgudi Jayaraman's Bani. His father, Gopala Iyer, he amalgamated all the different Barneys and brought out the clarity of voice, the instrument, and the diction of music. They brought out a very special fingering and bowing technique. Their bowing technique was very different from all the other Barneys in that all the other Barneys followed the Western style of bowing, but Lalgudi Jayaraman's father created a Bani in which the bowing was much different and combined the Western and Eastern style. The next is MSG. MS Gopalakrishnan. He created the famous Parur Bani. He brought out complete instrumental mastery, the way the instrument was handled, the way the bowing, everything, perfect tone, pure notes. He used very minimal gamakas and brought out the precision and his bowing technique was a combination of both Western and Eastern musical styles.